Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to part 4 of our series on how to enjoy the fountain pen hobby without spending money. Today's going to be really different. Today I'd really like to talk about a mindset that I'm working on developing, where I want to transfer skills that I learned when I learned about intermittent fasting. And we'll talk about what that is. Some of you already know, some may not really know much about it. But how I can, and we, not just I, but we can transfer the skills that come from intermittent fasting over to our pen hobby, to our spending in particular. But I've had some really interesting insights and I just wanted to share them with you. So let's just get started here. First, I just need to explain intermittent fasting for anybody who doesn't know what it is. All it simply is timed eating, where you decide when you are going to have an eating window or when you're going to eat, and then the rest of the time you don't eat. And so right now what I do, I have 18 hours where I'm fasting, and then I have a 6-hour window, and mine just happens to be 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can do it any time that you want that works for you. People even do longer intermittent fasting, but for me, I've found that that's plenty. It just seems to be the sweet spot for me. But there are people that go well beyond an 18-hour fast, and there are people who just stick to a 12-hour fast, where they learn not to do the snacking at night, not to have midnight snacks, things like that, and they only eat during a 12-hour eating window. So if you study it at all, you'll find out it's extremely flexible. It needs to be tailored to your life, your situation, like with work, family, home, when you want to be eating with others and things like that. But I began to really think a couple of weeks ago about this, and I've had quite a few insights that have been helpful. And I've kind of got some little translations made that I think I might start with. Actually, I'm not sure if I said enough about intermittent fasting. Okay, it's not just for weight loss. It's also a way to really improve your health. So it's to my way of thinking, skinny does not automatically equal healthy. And people use this who are trying to just bring down their blood sugar levels, or work out metabolic issues, deal with inflammation in their bodies. So it's not just about losing weight. So when I started thinking about it, I started thinking about how when I used to try to lose weight, I thought calories were king. I thought that was the biggest deal. But then I learned all these things. Like I learned that although calories cannot be taken out of the equation, they are not the most important thing. Certainly you won't lose weight, and you may not do too well if you're eating an extremely high calorie diet, like extremely, but trying to restrict calories, on the other hand, just would not help me lose weight. But restricting the window of time that I would eat, I immediately started changing my health. I mean, everything changed. My blood sugar levels dropped. I just felt better, and I started dropping weight like crazy, over a whole year. And first I left behind the obese category, and then I left behind the overweight category, and then I had to start making adjustments just to make sure I didn't lose too much weight. So that's when I found out that calories were not as important. And I'm thinking now that calories might equal dollars. Like as far as our spending in the pen hobby, it's going to be different for everybody. And there's going to be times when we have these little windfalls where we might want to buy an expensive pen. And I'm not even going to say how much an expensive pen would be, because it might be hundreds of dollars different, lower or higher for one person than another. So I think we need to get away from even the idea that dollars are the big thing, like limiting our dollar expenditures. Like that's going to make all the difference. Certainly you can fill up your house, and have, feel like you're kind of wallowing in things, even if you still have hundreds or thousands of dollars to spend on the fountain pen hobby, right? So we really just can't use that as a gauge. Gosh, I just had this thought like race across my mind, and now it's gone, but I hope it comes back, because it was one of the little thought trains I wanted to share with you, and I hope it comes back. So then I started thinking, well, okay, so what's equal to fasting, like the fasting period? And at first I thought, well, I guess that would be like a no spend, but we don't fast permanently. We don't completely stop eating, and neither do we stop needing things like stamps and paper and even ink, like, Coco, it's okay. Coco and Willie are inside because it's like super cold outside and it's windy and raining, and they're just getting to know each other. Manuel's kind of supervising, but I don't know what all the crying is about. I guess he's just talking. Coco, come here. Anyway, I've been trying to do these little translations. Yeah, but we have to kind of keep in mind that even if we're doing a no spend, there are going to be things we need. And certainly we don't fast by just stopping eating completely, because, we won't survive, or we won't survive well. We won't thrive. So then I wrote down our eating window. Well, the eating window used to be equivalent to me to the pen budget, whatever my pen allowance was. And I have to say I'm a little more set in my actual eating window. I slide that 6 hours however I need to, but it's usually pretty permanent. It's usually 10 to 4, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Works out great for me with our lifestyle and the whole 9 yards. With the pen budget, that changes a lot more, because there are other expenses. There are different times when the channel has a lot more money coming in for ads, and sometimes when there is none for a couple of months, and the things are very variable. But then, and sometimes I think, well, gee, this made a lot of sense when I was thinking about it, but hopefully I can type it all out too, and it may make more sense at that point in the description. But I was thinking about how there are certain things that I eat that I stay steady with. Like, I need a lot of protein, so eggs are one of my mainstays, So I thought, well, eggs kind of compare with paper and stamps. I'm never going to stop buying eggs. Whereas, like, the next item on the list would be where we could compare a piece of pie to a new pen. Now, a piece of pie is never, in my diet or in our diets, it's never required. It's never, the body doesn't have to have it to, in fact, it's not good for us. It may be good for our spirits. It may be something we love and enjoy. And I don't completely cut those things out. Just like I wouldn't sit here and tell you I'm never going to buy a new pen. But, it's so nice when we could put these things into perspective. Like for Thanksgiving, we bought one pie, and we had 4, it was a small one, and we had 4 pieces each, and we were allowed to eat them however whether we wanted to eat them all in 1 or 2 days, or whether we, froze it and spaced it out or whatever, and we each did different. But it isn't something that we go and buy every other week like we do eggs. And generally speaking, that would be kind of how we would do with pens, So, okay, I remember what flew by my mind that I wanted to talk about. It was the concept of the refrigerator. So let me just do this next one, and then I'll talk about the refrigerator. So when I think about excess weight, where I used to have a lot of excess weight, and I'm not going to sit here and say I don't still have some, flabby skin and excess fat. There's some on my body, yes. Well, I kind of compare that with having stockpiles of notebooks, the things where we end up with more than we need, more than we could possibly use, that kind of thing. And of course, there's strategies for, sharing them with others, getting them used, thinking up ways to use them and everything. But really, there's just so many ways that we can think of that. But let's talk about the refrigerator. So in intermittent fasting, Dr. Jason Fung, a Canadian doctor, he talks about how the reason we don't lose weight is insulin resistance. And the way he explains that is that the body has to do one of 2 things with food. It has to either burn it or store it. And it has, the short-term storage in the liver, and it has, or of course the stomach and the liver. But then it has the long-term storage too, and that's our fat stores. But we never get to the fat stores. We never use those things if we're putting more money in. But isn't that the way it is with the pen hobby? We are never going to use up those notebooks. We are not going to try the new pens we've already bought. We aren't going to finish our ink bottles. I'm terribly guilty of having bottles of ink. Unless we stop putting in more. And so think about eating and think about buying pen things. So I think I'm on to something, but obviously this is a ramble and I'm not quite fully like, it's right now I need to do a lot more journaling about it so that I can come up with specific criteria, because here we are, it's mid-December and I want to do things quite differently for 2020, next year, the new year. Really, I'm not super unhappy with how I did this year because I did a pen allowance and I didn't break the bank, but I'm not happy with having a lot of stockpiled stuff any more than I was happy about having a really large, size. Having a lot of extra fat on me I didn't think was good for me. And I don't like how it feels to have super, super, super extra, stock. It's great in one way. Like, it's certainly, I like having one extra Leuchtturm notebook, and I like having, enough Tomoe River paper extra so that I know I'm not going to run out, things like that. But I could see where the first 2 years in this pen hobby, I went absolutely batshit crazy. Might as well say the truth. I went crazy, and oh my gosh, I wouldn't even want to say how much I spent. I don't know, because I still don't even want to add up my Goulet spending alone, and they're not the only place that I order. So anyway, I do think we can use Dr. Jason Fung's analogy of the refrigerator and the freezer when we're thinking about our things, whether it's stationary, because I know I've watched a lot of people in stationary and also in makeup and beauty supplies. I've watched people go through this same kind of frustration, like, I'm just wallowing in this stuff. But if we think about how we are, and I love the ink flights, and it's been, it's like 3 times I've paused my subscription and then not been able to follow through with it. This is the December one, by the way, which is the next project, and I love them. I get introduced to new inks, but as long as I'm bringing in more ink samples, and there's a little notebook in there too, but as long as I'm doing that consistently, I'm not using up my stored items, which in intermittent fasting would be my stuff in the freezer or my fat stores. And so in the pen hobby, you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about having, not that I think everybody watching this has got gobs of notebooks and lots more ink than they need and a whole bunch more pens. That wouldn't be everybody, but I know who you are. No, I'm just kidding. Most of us, right? Most of us. And we do it to each other too. We say, I'm not just a recipient, I'm also somebody who sends people things. I try really hard, but like, you guys don't have a YouTube channel, so it's harder for me to know, would they like this? I think so. I have this ink in a bottle, let me send a sample. And I can only do it on a certain scale, economically and feasibility wise. But we do it to each other too with and it's lovely fun and everything. But it's so interesting how we do this, and I'm not by any means am I fed up or wanting to sell everything or stop doing it. No, I think it's fun to find solutions to these problems, and I love the way this the intermittent fasting seems to kind of have some parallel ideas with no spend or low spend or minimalizing, keeping what and having on stock or store what we really, really are using. Because it seems like we find out, I got this, I thought I was going to use this. Now, one of the areas that I find that I've done that is in pen storage. And, oh my, it's just, don't even get me started. Where I just love them so much, they're so beautiful. But I have my favorites that I use, and I almost always, it's always the Knox Sinclair. That's what I'm going to use on a daily basis, no questions asked. That was well worth the money. I have 2 of them, I'll confess. a blue one and a purple one, and I use them constantly. But then for some reason, I just think I've got to have pen rolls, pen hand rolls, and I love those, and they do serve a purpose, but I have decided that there is to be no more acquiring of those. I hope. Anyway, so let's see. What did I write down? Oh, okay. Fasting, spending. Yeah. Okay, so we have these periods of time when we don't eat, and then, but that does not take away from the eating. I was going to mention that. It's like I really enjoy eating still. I thought it would be miserable. I thought, oh, you know, it's just going to be like counting the time. Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Well, it was like that maybe for the first couple of weeks, but my body's so used to it now. I just feel so good in the evening, because say in the evening, the latest we finish is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's it for us. Then by 8 or 9 o'clock, I mean, I just feel really energized then, and I could still get things done. And certainly if I even went to bed early, I'd feel good. So not sure how you can relate that to the pen hobby, but it does feel really good when you know what you have, where it is, and you don't feel quite so overwhelmed. I think, you know, we can feel overwhelmed just like we can overwhelm our body. The body, it's like the body's saying, what do I do with this stuff? You know, you're feeding me again? Are you kidding me? You know, your refrigerator is full, so okay, I'll put it in the freezer. I hope you use this someday, because if not, you're going to buy new pants. Well, it's kind of like that with the storage of our stuff, you know, in the fountain pen hobby. I hope I don't sound like a raving lunatic. I did get one comment that went straight to the spam from the last video that was really scathing. Like, it was actually kind of funny in a way too, because I have a feeling maybe I talked too fast, and there might have been a little bit of a language barrier there too, but it was almost awful anyway. And I thought, oh dear. I think most of you will understand what I'm trying to say. You know, I'm just trying to kind of make a comparison between, you know, how it is when we deal with our eating issue, and how it is when we deal with our spending and collecting issue with pens. It's not all about money, and it's not all about calories. It's about being able to realistically find, organize, use, and enjoy what we have in the hobby, right? And if we're completely overloaded, we just aren't ever going to get there. Like, so sometimes I get really like, oh, when am I going to be able to, like behind these pencils, I've got, let's see, I think these are the Twisbees and the Monteverdes. These are some of the ones that, oh, I really want to get to the reviews on these, but I haven't yet. And here's 7 more. So that's just a little example. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I paused my ink flight, because I told you that before, and then I unpaused it. So there's no telling what'll happen, because I get so excited about the ink flights. And I guess I don't have to review every single ink, but I get excited about it. And well, in the case of the Twisbees, that can wait a little longer, because I have like however many, the little bottles have 18 mils, but I only have 2 mils of each of the Monteverde, and the inks that are in the box, I'm not going to give away what they are yet, because that'll be another video. But you see what I'm saying? Okay, in comes one, in comes another, here's another one. So I'm not going to, you know, make my way through necessarily, even to try them in my ink journal. And I think probably I'm in a unique position compared to some of you, because of having the channel and having lots of people really excited for me to be able to make the little tiles and compare the inks. So I've had you guys send quite a few samples, and that's wonderful, because it'd be about the only way that I would ever, you know, have the ones for the tiles for the comparison panels. So I haven't wanted to discourage that, except for just to disclose and be honest about the fact that I have quite a bit, and that, you know, if you're expecting an ink profile, I'm backed up, and also trying to balance life and kitties and all that. I'm surprised Coco didn't come over here. He actually goes on Thursday for his neuter and all the rest of his care, at least to get him, you know, his beginning shots and things. The rest that he didn't get at the vet the other day. So that's exciting and nerve-wracking too. That'll be December 12th, the day before my birthday, and it's like he's just a baby, and I hope he'll be okay. But I hope this helps. I know that I'm not really great at doing talking points. I'm more of a rambler, but let me know in the comments if this makes sense to you. And if you know anything about intermittent fasting, maybe it'll make more sense. Like the idea that we can still super enjoy eating. We can still super enjoy the hobby and whatever spending or acquiring or trading or, gifting each other things. But we can have periods of time where we don't do that, and it doesn't have to be related to dollars. Just because I have, say, $100 in my Pen account, because I do keep a totally separate account for Pen purchases. That way, the blurry lines of finances don't get too blurry. Just because it's there doesn't mean I have to spend it, right then. And it's the same thing really with the eating part. There's days when I'm not hungry when the fasting window is over. I can almost tell if my carbs were just a little higher the day before, then there's just no way. And if we're really, really mindful, we know when we don't need to buy ink and we don't need to purchase a new pen. But we should always allow ourselves a piece of pie. So you see what I mean? I'm going back and forth because this is kind of fun for me to realize that we can transfer the thinking that, the thinking that helped me out of a really severe weight and metabolic issue can help me get out of my excess, let's say, and also just the habit of spending money as it comes in on Pen stuff. I'm afraid I've talked too long already. So I think I'll leave this this one at this, and I will enjoy most of the comments, I'm sure, and hopefully it won't be such a ramble that it'll just be like this huge annoyance, because people could always just say, oh, forget that, I can't hear that ramble. So I will see you next time, and I'm really excited to bring you what's in this Inkflate box. It's cool. It's really cool, and I'm gonna do a panel and everything. So I'll see you next time, and thank you. If you listened this long, you deserve a medal. Bye for now.